Hello, everyone. I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How are you doing today, Will?
I'm doing fantastic, Cam. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic as well. We have a tremendous episode for everyone planned today. We've got talk about the Darth Maul TV show a little bit just because of the insane praise it's been getting. The Supergirl trailer dropped. We have some thoughts about that. Another trailer for this Stranger Things abomination, in my opinion, has dropped. I just saw Project Hail Mary. I think Will will be seeing it soon, so perhaps a deeper dive later, but a quick little review, surface level review from me for that. Um, Let me get some NBA talk. We're gonna be going, taking some players and going career for career who's had the better overall career type of deal. But right off the bat, well, something that's kind of pressing in a way is just this insane praise that this Darth Maul TV show has gotten with people comparing Maul Shadow Lord to things like The Dark Knight, which I don't even know what that means. I haven't had a chance to, check anything out, like actually watch the show yet. Is the show out?
Yep, the show is out.
Every episode? Wow. Okay.
Well, not every episode, but the first two episodes dropped on Monday, 2 days ago.
Wow. Okay, so based off the reviews, this is the show I'm gonna have to check out. I guess it has some of the best action sequences in any animated Star Wars project, and on top of that, it's small. And on top of that, it has a 100% with 31 critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, which is, a pretty solid amount of reviews, to have 100%. And then you got even more hundreds of reviews from the audience, and you get a 94. So not that Rotten Tomatoes dictates everything, but because I think we kind of let it dictate a lot, especially here on the podcast. But whatever. But I think this is a show that would be right for me, and I look forward to watching it. Will, how are you feeling about this mall show?
Yeah, so let me first comment on the fact that before the show even came out on Monday, a season 2 had already been announced
Oh,
by Star Wars. And look, I get it. Maul is an iconic Star Wars character. So I get kind of having faith that people are going to show up for the show because it's Maul and because they love that character. And I could understand it being renewed for a season 2 from that standpoint, but I'm also like, wouldn't you want to wait and let the first season come out and actually see how many people watch it and actually see if people enjoy it or not, and
yeah.
then renew it for a season 2? I just thought the timing of it being renewed for a season 2 before season 1 even came out was a little strange. And I did have an opportunity to watch both of the first two episodes that dropped for this Small Shadow Lord series. And with all due respect, look, everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but I think the Rotten Tomatoes ratings for this series are way too high. I just like the fact that it is at 100%, I think is absolutely ridiculous. Because look, I'm not saying Maul is not a compelling character. He absolutely is. And what makes him compelling is that he I won't say who the person he's talking about is because I don't want to spoil the show for people who haven't seen it. But what makes Maul a compelling character is that while he is very much a villain, this is very much an evil guy, Darth Maul, he also wants to get revenge on people from the Empire. And he talks about in the second episode wanting to get revenge on a certain someone who any Star Wars fan will recognize their name. In episode 2, he mentions wanting to get revenge on a high person in power from the Empire who he feels betrayed him. So I feel like you don't see a Star Wars villain who's actually going against people from the Empire that often. So that
Yeah.
is what makes Maul compelling. But the reason I feel the reviews being this high are so overblown is that while I am happy that this is 10 episodes, because Star Wars, they've come out with those Tales series in recent
Yeah.
years. And while I did really enjoy Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire and Tales of the Underworld just kind of didn't really do it for me, just because of how few episodes there were and just how short they were. I just didn't feel they had that much time to really dive
Yeah.
into stuff. So I'm happy that this is 10 episodes instead of the very small amount of episodes that the Tales series would be. But these episodes are all only around like a half hour. The second episode was around 25 minutes. So while Darth Maul can be compelling because he's a previously established character, there's these new characters that they're bringing along and introducing. And the episodes are so short that I feel like there's not just really any time to develop the new characters and make them interesting and make you compelled by them as an audience. And when they're so short, the pacing's very fast and it just kind of feels like it's going from thing to thing and doesn't have the time of feeling like they can really develop it in a good way and then build to something. So look, I will watch every episode of this show because I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I'm excited about almost any opportunity to watch some Star Wars. Darth Maul is a compelling character, so he is what will keep me watching the show for all 10 episodes. But for
Yeah.
all the reasons I just discussed, I think the reviews being this high is absolutely insane, if I do say so myself.
I can definitely see myself feeling the same way as you will. I'm definitely intrigued to, I mean, decide it for myself for sure. Just because, as you said, I also love this character of Maul. Um, but my thoughts right now, I feel like it's this the market with Maul has kind of been oversaturated a little bit. He went from a character people just wanted more of him because he had so little screen time, but his presence was so strongly felt in the Phantom Menace. And then he went to appearing in everything from Star Wars Rebels to Solo, a Star Wars story, to the Clone Wars. And he had a big role in both of those shows, a huge role even. Seasons dedicated to him. Um, so to then again get more and more material with him, even though we know how his arc starts, we know how it ends, and we still know some of what goes on in between. It makes it kind of feel like they're pushing it a little bit with the existence of this show, almost making it feel like it's being dragged a little bit. But what else is new? I feel like I've said about 30 Disney shows in the past. I mean, it's what I've been saying about that stupid Stranger Things TV show. Um, so, no surprise that I feel that way here. But then again, the reviews got me interested. I'm gonna watch it, at least the first couple episodes, make a decision and, go from there. And, I'll probably have more definitive thoughts there. Um, Now I'm gonna take a second to dive into something interesting, Will. A career for career. I have four comparisons here, Will. Um, I've thought of these, a little bit today. I had some discussions with some people today, and it raised, you know, interesting questions. Um, First off, the first one that came to mind for me, I think you'll find it to be an interesting comparison, especially you. I think I know my answer, but I can see I can hear an argument for both of these. Career for career, who's had the better career so far, overall, whatever, LeBron or Curry?
Ooh.
It's tricky, because obviously LeBron's uh, been the most dominant player in the NBA forever. He's considered one of the greatest of all time. But Curry isn't that far behind in terms of those rankings. He has a very large amount of champion. How many championships does he have with the Warriors? Well,
Four.
that's a lot,
Yeah,
you
which is
know.
the exact same number of championships as LeBron. Both of them have the same amount of titles.
And that's where it gets interesting. And I think it all depends on what you think is most important, but that's where I think the argument can be made. Same amount of titles, you know, different aspects of their game are better. Obviously Curry's a shooter, LeBron's less of that. But then I start to look at them now, who's aging better. Yes, Curry was banged up, but when he's playing, I think he's playing at a higher level than Bron is. Sure, he has Bron has a few more years on Curry, but not much. Not to a point where it really matters. Um, and you can't make the excuse that, you know, um, Curry has a stacked team. Not right now. No, he doesn't. And he just dropped what he just dropped the other day on that comeback game. Will 29 points was it?
29 points. Yep.
With what's that bum's name Podzemski.
Yeah.
Yeah, having to deal with that guy. Um, so then you look at LeBron, Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic. It's interesting. That's where I think the points can be made. I still have to side with LeBron just because I think he's been dominant for longer and he was more consistently dominant from the start of his career. But Will, I am interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, like you, I would have to give it to LeBron. And let me say this. I'm a massive Warriors fan. Steph Curry is my favorite basketball player of all time. I love Steph Curry. Steph Curry's resume is incredible. He's one of the all-time greats. But
Yeah.
when we're talking about this, I would have to give LeBron the edge from the standpoint of, while it's incredibly impressive that Steph Curry has managed to stay with the Warriors for his entire career, when you see some of these other star players like Chris Paul and Kevin Durant bouncing from team to team to team.
Yeah. And even
It's very
LeBron to a certain extent, more than
exactly,
Curry.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. So while it is incredibly impressive that Steph has managed to stay with the Warriors his entire career and win 4 championships with the Warriors, the fact that LeBron won championships with 3 different teams is really impressive and really has to be taken into consideration here. And then another place where I feel like LeBron gets the edge over Curry, if we're talking who's better, is from this standpoint. Look, there is nobody more who will get there is no one who will get more angry than me at people who come out here and be like, oh, Kevin Durant saved the Warriors legacy. Steph wouldn't have won those 2 titles without Durant, blah 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 blah. Steph blew a 3-1 lead in the 2016 finals. Durant saved him. That's the narrative that the Steph Curry haters like to create. Wouldn't it be funny, or isn't it funny, that seemingly nobody, aside from maybe Stephen A, likes to bring up the fact that Kevin Durant blew a 3-1 lead against the Warriors in the 2016 Western Conference Finals, then went and joined the team that he had just blown a 3-1 lead against and has not won any championships without the Golden State Warriors. He is on his 3rd different team right now since leaving Golden State. Since leaving Golden State, he has not even made a conference finals and has been swept in the first round twice. That is who we're talking about here in Kevin Durant. So there's nobody who will get more angry at people making the Durant saved the Warriors narrative when he was actually the one to join the Warriors after blowing a 3-1 lead against them. There's nobody who gets more angry at that narrative than me. But I do feel that LeBron gets the edge over Curry from the standpoint of, even though I will make the case of, it was very easy for Kevin Durant to perform so well in the 2017 and 2018 NBA Finals, because when you're playing on a team with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and all the attention of the defense is on Steph and Klay, that's going to open you up to be able to get a lot of shots
Hmm.
if you're Kevin Durant. That being said, though, I feel like where LeBron gets the edge over Curry is, while Curry and LeBron have both been on super teams, Steph was on super teams in 2017 and 2018. LeBron was on super teams in his 2 championships with the Heat. I will say that although I think Kevin Durant had a very easy route to winning Finals MVP twice, playing on a team with Steph and Klay, you can't deny the fact that he did earn Finals MVP over Steph in the 2017 and 2018 Finals, especially with those 2 unbelievably clutch threes he hit against the Cavaliers from from almost the exact same spot in back-to-back game threes in 2017 and 2018. You can't deny the fact that Kevin Durant did deserve those finals MVPs with the way that he played. And I feel like when LeBron was on the Heat, while he had another great player in Dwayne Wade with him on that team, I feel like when the Heat won their championships, it was very clear that LeBron was the best player. But during the Warriors championships in 2017 and 2018, Kevin Durant did play like the best player on that team in the NBA Finals. So, for those reasons, I would give LeBron the edge over Curry. But Steph Curry's career is unbelievable in everything he has done since Kevin Durant left, winning in 2022, the 50-point Game 7 against the Kings a couple years ago, his ridiculous performance with the 4 straight threes in the gold medal game against France at the Olympics.
Yeah.
He's an all-time great. They're the 2 greatest players of this generation. And I feel like for a certain stretch of time, there was a lot of like LeBron, KD talk. That is out the window now. Kevin Durant isn't even, I think Kevin Durant is not even close to LeBron
Not even
James.
close?
Well, he's won no championships without
That
the
doesn't
Warriors.
that's almost a totally different argument, I feel, to a point. I think it's definitely a factor, but if you watch how these players and then you got to take into personality into account too. We're not exactly doing that. It's if you watch these guys on the court, I see Kevin Durant dominate just as much, maybe a little bit less than Curry. Championships are one thing, sure, but I think that it's not everything, and I think that kind of also brings to my next question, which was Curry or KD overall, which, wow, perfect timing here. Um, I think KD should have more respect in that regard.
Well, are you saying like just in terms of are you saying not how many
Over,
championships they have won, and in just their skill level as players?
I'm saying it's not the biggest piece of the puzzle, the championships. There are a lot of factors that go into winning a championship, and I mean, it's not everything. So I think saying that KD isn't even close to these two, I think that is a scorching hot take.
But if he's that great, if he is that great of a player, why hasn't he won when he's not on a super team? Why,
That's
why is
where
it? Yeah,
that's where the
that's my take. That's why I say he doesn't touch LeBron and Curry. I think he's a great individual player, but I think there has been mounting evidence that he doesn't make his teammates better the way that LeBron and Curry do.
that's where the personality thing comes into play. I don't know if we count personality into career comparisons. If you do, okay, yeah, that makes him kind of a lesser uh, uh, person to have up here, just because he is a little bit insufferable a lot. Um, but if you're not, I think the way he treats his teammates, the way he acts, that's why he hasn't won. Not his skill level, not anything. It's the dynamic that they have there. It's the way he wants to be respected always. It's that self-consciousness that he has, that annoying, the annoying factor, I guess. I think that's what's taking him down. Do you want to count that in comparing careers? Is that something you should take into account?
I mean, I do kind of feel like it has to be. I do feel it should be, taken into account, just from the standpoint of if that is preventing him from winning more championships, I feel like that, that should be taken into account. And I also feel with Kevin Durant, another thing that needs to be raised is, he just seems to be bouncing from team to team to team after he left the Warriors. I mean, he's on his 3rd different team since leaving the Warriors, and
Who
I
he's
feel like
been more successful than Steph has been this year. Granted, there's been roadblocks for the
true, but
Warriors, but still.
at the end of the day, though, Steph Curry won a championship since Kevin Durant left the Warriors. Durant has not won a championship since leaving the Warriors. Hasn't even been to a conference finals. That's why I say Steph gets the edge over him any day of the week in my book.
I think any day of the week is almost preposterous. I think there is more of an argument for KD here than there is for Curry and LeBron. Um, I think this is it's difficult because yes, I mean, obviously they were on the same team while they did win the championships together, and I think that's what needs to be analyzed a little bit more. Um, so he has championships. You can't say, oh, that's because of Steph. You can't say that. I think it's a tricky argument. I think this is the closest it can get in terms of career comparison. I don't think there's a clear pick here. And I think it will also depend on how these guys' careers end up going from here, because like I said, the Rockets are good right now. Who knows what could happen with them this year, next. The Warriors aren't great this year. Who knows what could happen next year? Who knows if Steph wants to finish his career on the Warriors? Do you think that's something he's interested in, Will?
I mean, I definitely think he wants to. I mean, I also think you have to think of it, from the standpoint of, he's, he and his wife have raised their kids in the Bay Area, and the thought of having to, move to a different place, if Steph were to play on a different team, I'm sure could be challenging. So I definitely think Steph Curry wants to finish his career with the Warriors, but do I think Steph Curry is winning another championship with the Warriors? Absolutely not. I think the Warriors. I mean, look. Steph Steph Curry could, Steph Curry, there is nothing else he needs to do to secure his legacy. His legacy is secured, 4 championships, Olympic gold medal. The guy is an all-time great. His legacy is secured. There's nothing else he needs to do. But in terms of the rest of his career, do I think he wants to stay with the Warriors? Yes, I think he's very much into the thought of being a Warrior for life. Do I think he's going to win another championship with the Warriors? Absolutely not. I think the Warriors are a fading, dying dynasty. I think what is happening to them is just what happens to great dynasties at the end of their run. I just think, when dynasties come to an end, players get older, which causes them to get injured more often. And injuries just seem to be what is preventing the Warriors from doing well so often lately. Last season, they were playing great with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Then Steph Curry gets injured. In the second round of the playoffs, they lose. This season, they're, starting to play well with Jimmy Butler again. Then Jimmy Butler goes down with a season-ending injury. And even though Steph Curry just came back, Steph Curry had been out with an injury for a long stretch. So I think the Warriors are an injury-prone, fading, dying dynasty. And do I think they're winning another title in the Steph Curry era? I just do not.
I'm actually interested to revisit this topic a little bit down the road. You know what I mean? With how these two athletes' careers progress. Um, and speaking of how these two athletes' careers have progressed, um, this next comparison is kind of interesting because they're different players, but I've kind of seen similar-ish career trajectories in a way. I have LaMelo Ball and
Ooh.
Zion Williamson, which they're similar career trajectories in a way where start strong, battle with injuries, always in and out. If you look at this season, Zion has the edge. Look at last season, maybe it leans more towards LaMelo. Um, I know this season Zion's averaging more points, which definitely is a factor. I lean more towards LaMelo, because he's while also battling with injuries, he's now on a really solid team. He's stuck with this team and he's kept himself in good condition. He's consistently tried to better himself. I haven't seen that from Zion, and I think that alone gives him just that much of an edge over Zion. I'm interested to hear what you have to say though.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I would also give LaMelo Ball the edge because, yeah, I mean, Zion, has just been so injury prone throughout his career. It's just
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable, and it's not like anybody was expecting LaMelo Ball to be a bad player, but Zion was the definitely had higher expectations from the standpoint of he was the number one pick in the draft. He had like superstar, face of the league potential, and he just hasn't lived up to that. So again, not that anybody was expecting LaMelo to be bad in any way, but like he didn't have like the superstar face of the league potential on the level that Zion did. So I feel like when Zion had just that level of high expectations and hasn't lived up to them due to just how injury prone he's been, I would definitely also give LaMelo the edge on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you, Will. I had some discussions today with some peers who it was more controversial, and I'm glad we seem to agree with. I feel like this is the objective right take with LaMelo. And then my final one here gets interesting. Luka Tatum. Um, I think it maybe keep Luka on the Mavs plays out a little bit differently, but the championship speaks volumes. Um, Tatum's comeback from injury and take away the injury. I mean, that's the only significant piece of time he's missed, really. He's not an injury-prone player. Not that that's an shattering thing if you get injured from time to time. But I mean, playing more is going to help you. The championship is going to help you. Um, and I again, honestly, keeping yourself in shape. Tatum's consistently done that. Luka hasn't. It's an effort thing in that way. Um, I can't stand watching Luka Doncic play basketball. He complains after every call. Again, not really a huge factor, but it builds up. I'm with Tatum. Could be biased. I don't think so. I think another objective um, take right there. What about you, Will?
Yeah, I am in total agreement with you on choosing Tatum for that one. It sounds like for you, Cam, in the case of someone like Kevin Durant not having as many titles as LeBron and Steph, it sounds like you don't take championships into account as much as I do. But for me, I have to take championships into account, especially in a scenario like
It's a factor
yeah,
for sure. It's you do need
yeah.
it's a part. It's a relatively big part.
Yeah, and it ultimately does matter to me because Luka Doncic, he is somebody with superstar potential who has made an NBA Finals, but we but talk has emerged about him over the years about not being the best teammate, not showing up in shape, and that makes you have to ask, are those things that
Yep.
are preventing him from winning the championship that he so clearly has the potential to win? And meanwhile, you look at Tatum. I mean, the fact that Jason Tatum defeated Luka Doncic in the NBA Finals to win a championship, that absolutely has to be taken into consideration for me. And the stuff you hear with Luka about, being a bad teammate, even though it was a horribly dumb trade for the Mavericks because they got
Yeah.
nothing of value in return, Luka not being the best teammate had to have factored into the Mavericks making the decision to trade him along, with the fact that, he could, show up not in the best of shape.
Yep.
And with Tatum, not only does he have a championship when Luka doesn't, he beat Luka in the finals. Tatum, model citizen as a teammate. You couldn't ask for a better teammate than him. Even though he was out
Definitely.
injured for the majority of this season,
He
he,
showed up.
showed up at games supporting his team, was never envious of Jaylen Brown, now being considered somebody who's proven to be a number one scoring option, is not envious over that, or even if he is, he never shows it outwardly. And stuff about, not showing up overweight here and that about Luka, you never hear that about Tatum. And what the Mavericks did, trading Luka away to the Lakers, the Celtics would never dare to do that with Tatum, because he's such a high likable character guy and has done so much for their organization. And I guess if there's one thing that could bring Tatum's legacy to another level, it would be getting the Finals MVP, because that certainly, I think, took Steph Curry's legacy to another level in 2022, because the Finals MVP was the one thing that he hadn't had. He got it in 2022, and I feel like that took his legacy to another level. So if the Celtics win the championship again this year, and Tatum is able to get the Finals MVP over Jaylen Brown this time, I feel like that would take his legacy to yet another level. But I feel like his resume already couldn't be any more impressive. NBA champion, great season after great season, easily gets the lead over Luka for me, not even a question.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I don't think it's me being biased as a Celtics fan. Um, but I love this art. I love this discussion. I love this concept for NBA talk. It brings up a lot of interesting ideas for sure. And speaking of interesting ideas, Project Hail Mary was a movie that I saw recently. I liked it a lot. I mean, I'm a big Ryan Gosling fan, so yeah, I mean, I'm gonna like it. I recommend this to anyone, really. I mean, it's not even supposed to have a niche sort of fan base. It's really for anyone. It's funny. It has some moments of some serious moments. It's got some nice levity. It's fun. There's some mystery to it. There's sci-fi. It's got every element you could ask for. It's a great time at the theater. Maybe it's a bit too long. I don't know. I don't really care about length, but if that's an issue, then maybe you'll notice it. I know what they could have cut, but that's just me. Um, I'm kind of critical with movies, but it also, like I said, doesn't tarnish my experience or anything. This is a movie I'd recommend to anyone. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. It's just, it's great watch. It's so much fun. Um, and before we wrap up this episode, well, the Supergirl trailer dropped, and I have some concerns about it kind of just taking, well, it isn't a James Gunn movie. It kind of takes everything a James Gunn movie is, elements from Guardians, elements from the Suicide Squad, and just does it again. Like it looks like a Guardians movie. It kind of feels like one, and that kind of worries me with this James Gunn universe. Is every movie gonna be the same sort of vibe? I hope not. And were you impressed by the trailer, Will?
Um, I mean, I would say similar to you, it didn't, blow me away by any stretch due to the formulaic aspects that you talked about. And I would say, like, the biggest thing for me that's holding me back from jumping on the James Gunn DC bandwagon is, even though I can get really into a suit like a Marvel project if it's done well, there also is, superhero fatigue creeping in from the standpoint of we've seen, so much superhero content, that it kind of gets to the point of how much more could you really do that hasn't been done before. And then also, I just feel like there are certain franchises, like let's take the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World franchise, for instance, even if it has, never lived up to the heights that the original Jurassic Park reached, I'm still willing to, watch every movie in that franchise because it's only 7 films, which is way
Yeah.
less compared to the amount of movies that Marvel has made and the amount of movies that James Gunn is planning to make in his DC universe. So I would say like the superhero fatigue factor is one thing that's making me not want to jump into a whole other superhero world in DC when I already follow Marvel. That's one. And then another is like just jumping into a franchise with that much content and having to keep up with that much content. I'm willing to do it with Marvel and Star Wars, but having to do it with a whole third franchise as well is just not appealing to me at this time.
I understand where you're coming from. I've kind of fallen into this trap, and there's no getting out for me. So, I'm gonna watch it, good or bad. But it is a concern that I have, and I could get into my list of concerns, but you guys are all sick of that by now. That's all we talk about is our list of concerns. So I was glad to split it up today, with today's episode and be able to talk about. Again, I just love that career comparisons. We're gonna have to do something like that again. But with that, thank you all for watching this episode of the Everything Podcast. Will, thank you for joining me as always, and we'll see you next time.